So there's some very interesting developments that have been happening on our website behind the scenes. One of them is a page about Lucifer. Who is Lucifer, or what is Lucifer? Does Lucifer have a place in the Bible? There's one place in the Bible where his name actually occurs. It's Isaiah 14:12, but modern translations, and I think there's waves coming in from my flashlight over here that I'm trying to utilize, not too effectively. But most translations, except of course the King James Bible, have decided to not include the name Lucifer in Isaiah 14. This leaves the entire Bible without a single reference to the name Lucifer. What's the big deal? How did that happen? Where did it go? Who decided to kick it out? Or did it never belong there to begin with? Hi, my name's Joseph Armstrong, and welcome to the Bible Version Conspiracy. We'll be putting some links down below, and especially a link to subscribe to our channel. There's going to be future developments coming to our YouTube channel, different videos that I want to do on the website, a preview for it. Especially, I wasn't able to do it tonight. The studio right now is not available due to technological restrictions and stuff that I have with the phone and everything. So hopefully we can get that all fixed up for next week. But there's a massive web page that we're preparing right now. It's called, you'll be able to see it at BibleVersionConspiracy.com/Lucifer. And when you go there, there's going to be what I'm trying to make the fairest evaluation of the available evidence that I can create. All that I can do, all of the information that I can bring together to help you arrive at a fair, well-rounded, well-informed conclusion as to the translation of the Hebrew word Hallel, which underlies the word Lucifer in our King James Bible. In the NIV, I believe it is day star. Other translations, I believe, choose morning star. The New Living Translation, they choose shining one. So there's a lot surrounding this, and tonight I'm going to have to work from memory. I want to talk to you guys as well. I want to see what you guys think. So I'm going to bring up. Okay, we've got the commentary all ready to go. So I want to see what you guys think about what I'm putting out. So this is just going to be a preview, like I said, of this page from my memory, giving you guys some very interesting information that I've uncovered about the translation and the opinions of Christians about the word Lucifer down through the ages. So the main contention, and one of the things that has actually spurred me to do this, I've been working on this webpage for a very, very long time, but one reason why I'm going public with some of the preview information right now is because one of my friends, his name is Brandon Peterson, he runs a YouTube channel called Truth is Christ, and he made a video about 11 minutes long very recently saying that modern translators do not believe that Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12 is a reference to Satan. And of course, this has affected modern Bibles, and this is horrible, and it is evil. Gail Riplinger of New Age Bible Versions infamy, she said that this was a New Age conspiracy to make Lucifer appear to be Jesus Christ. There's a lot at play here, and one of the things that and Brandon's design, his eye candy, his delivery, and everything is superb. But the problem that I've seen, and Brandon, you may be watching this, I don't know. The problem that I see is that in that video, I hope that that's not all that would go into the documentary, but it probably is. It's a preview of a documentary he's working on. The problem is that in 11 minutes, it is just about impossible to even scratch the surface of how deep this discussion on Lucifer versus Daystar, Morning Star, Shining One, all this other stuff. It's impossible to scratch the surface in 11 minutes. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to give you guys a an overhead view of it right now from memory, and hopefully next week we'll be able to show you the actual website. It'll be Valentine's Day. A lot of you probably aren't going to tune in because, you know, you've got Valentine's things to do, and I don't blame you. You guys can watch it the next day, which would be Saturday, whatever you want to do. So what I am not saying, I want to be very, very clear about what I'm not saying. Is my hand even visible? I'm making all these gestures and stuff, and it's like you can't see them because the palms of my gloves are black. And I hope the fan isn't too distracting in the background because it's cold out here. So that's why it's on. I think this is all the best I can do with the setup and everything. All right, so here we go. What I am not saying that Isaiah 14:12 is mistranslated in the King James Bible. I am not saying that. What I'm saying is that the translation that they chose to put in the text can be confusing, and that modern Christians need to be aware that Lucifer does not just mean Satan. Gail Ripplinger assumed this, and she wrote an entire book laying out a conspiracy theory where modern translations and modern translators and commentators and lexicographers and everybody else is in this huge big conspiracy. And it started because she made an assumption that Lucifer only means Satan. And then stacked on top of that another assumption that Daystar and Morning Star only means Jesus Christ. So modern translation translates Lucifer instead as Morning Star or Daystar. And oh, guess what? They're trying to make it so that, you know, Jesus Christ is called the Morning Star and the Daystar in the New Testament. They're trying to make it so that Jesus is Satan, because Isaiah 14:12 is obviously a reference to Satan, and they're calling him the Daystar, and they call Jesus the Daystar in the New Testament, so they're making a connection, and they're making us think that Jesus Christ fell from heaven, and there was a confused student that came to her when she was at Kent State University that apparently had heard this somewhere or was confused about it from his modern version or something like this, and Gail was just in shock and horror, and she ended up writing New Age Bible versions. The problem is that New Age Bible versions and so many other King James only resources, self-proclaimed King James only defenders, self-proclaimed King James only experts or scholars, people that have a passion for this subject like I do. I spread this around too, okay? I've been on YouTube for about 15 years. I forget when my first video was. I've kind of committed to memory, like I memorized just about everything else. But I've been on here for a long time, and I have not always said what I'm saying now. What I'm saying now has been as a result of doing my own research, doing my own fact checking on what I used to claim when I used King James only resources as my only guides. I would look up an article by KJV Today. I would look up an article by Will Kinney. I would look up an article by or like a chapter in like the Answer Book or whatever by Sam Gipp, or check out the books by David Daniels, who's another friend of mine, to see about this question. See what New Age Bible version said about it. Hazardous Materials, in All of Thy Word, all written by Gail Ripplinger. I would look at all these sources to determine what my opinion would be. But the thing is that I didn't look into the history. I didn't dig into the language or anything else like this on my own. And that was a flaw. That was irresponsible on my part. And I want to help you get the information. I want to help you be responsible, for you to check for yourself and not just to toe the KJV only line, not just sing the KJV only song because all your King James only relatives or church members or teachers or whoever else are going to be mad at you because you don't agree with them. That is a horrible place to be at. And I want to help equip you guys with the ability to check for yourself, learn for yourself, get to the bottom of things for yourself, because it is possible today, guys. It is possible. So, to be clear, first thing, I'm not saying that. Now, I don't. Can I? I'm always tempted to touch my technology when it's working, and I don't want to screw it up. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it for now. Should I leave it? It's such a temptation. I wish I had another device out here that I could actually, look at or what have you. Which, by the way, I'll mention that on our Buy Me a Coffee page, there's a wish list tab. We're saving up for a new laptop. The one that I have right now, I unplug it, the battery's shot. It just blinks out. It has 8 gigs of RAM. It's super old. It kind of works, but I can't do a lot of the serious editing that I need to be able to do. I have to do all of it on the phone, and it's a lot of little motions and a lot of really close screen work, and it's so if you want to help us build toward that, I think we have about $100 now saved up, so you guys can help us out with that if you feel led. Buymeacoffee.com/Joseph Armstrong. So that's one of our ministry needs. It's about right now. It's about a $3,000 laptop, with everything included and all that, because laptops don't work independently by themselves very well with larger screens and then everything else. And so yeah, about I think 3,000 or whatever we're trying to work up to. So, but whatever you got to do with that. So the passage in question, Isaiah 14:12. It is not on an island. It is not a verse that stands alone. This is how the prophet wrote it, as verse 12 of chapter 14 of his book. That's not how it was written. It was written as part of a larger book, a part of a larger context, part of a broader prophecy that comes around it. If I remember correctly, the context of Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12, actually starts in chapter 13, verse 1, where it talks about it being a prophecy against the king of Babylon. Right there, we know that it is not exclusively applicable to Satan himself. The verse says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which sits weak in the nations?" In that passage, we see a lot of different ways that it's describing a physical king of Babylon. At one point, like a week ago, I could see, or maybe a few weeks ago, I could see where you would have like a double fulfillment prophecy with Lucifer in there too. Maybe the background's a little quieter for you now. Maybe maybe the force of Lucifer, the influence of Satan was behind Nebuchadnezzar or Sennacherib or whoever it's talking about, and maybe that's how it was. Now, when I look at it, after having reviewed older English translations and their footnotes, that's extremely important, especially when you get into the King James only material that talks to this subject. Older commentators, John Gill, John Calvin, even Origen made some comments on the passage. St. Augustine, St. Jerome, all these dudes. I say saint because I don't remember what. Well, actually, wait, Jerome must have been his first name. Augustine of Hippo, I guess of is his middle name and Hippo is his last name. I'm not quite sure how all that works, but they made comments on it. And after reviewing all of these, do I have? I've gone down to 3. That's okay. And I'm glad that our YouTube channel hasn't really taken off. Like I've said this so many times. I'm glad that we haven't had the opportunity to actually let our YouTube channel take off, because I have learned so much for doing research for this channel before actually, making it like, a a more audience reaching machine or what have you. I'm glad that I haven't poured the effort into promoting what I thought before I researched. I am so glad that I didn't do that. And if you guys are into getting to the bottom of the conspiracy behind the modern Bible translation controversy, hit that subscribe button. So, the ancient Hebrews, I believe, applied it to Nebuchadnezzar. So that was the earliest thing that I could find. That's in the commentary by John Gill. He mentions that. I believe it's in the Talmud. I'll have to double check that. The Talmud, I will say, is not the most orthodox biblical tremendous piece of literature, but if you're going to get something from the ancient Jews, you have to take it from their writings, and they're not always great. There's a lot of different objections to this that we'll try to cover in a moment. Let's see. Three English translations I have found to be particularly worthy of note on this point. Actually, 4, in King James Bible included. So last year, I made a video. A guy made a comment, and I think that this was before I started doing a lot of serious research on the question of Lucifer. He was like, "Oh, there were footnotes in the King James Bible, and there was one of them in particular, and he brought up the footnote from the original 1611 that they put on Isaiah 14:12. So I went and I looked it up. He provided screen captures as well. And you might not know this, but in the King James preface called The Translators to the Reader, they wrote, and I document all of this on the website, their exact words. They say that something called a hapax legomenon, which you may not have heard of. If you watch this channel, you probably have. But a hapax legomenon, I think that's how it's pronounced, is a word that only appears once, having neither friend nor brother. And since it only appears once in the scripture, it's not clear necessarily how it should be translated. So Lucifer is one of those words. There are other words that are related to it, but as far as its actual use, the word is Hallel. Sometimes you see it spelled with a Y. Other times it's just Helel or whatever. Sometimes there's a Y after the first E, but they said that when they would come upon these words that only had one occurrence. And if you're getting value out of this video, please hit that like button. If you want to share it, that would be awesome. Get more people watching it live. If not, that's fine. I'll share it myself when we're done with the stream. But it helps us out for you to share our videos that we make on this channel. It helps us out tremendously. And stick around, because there's some crazy stuff that I've been digging up on this question. So It's always just kind of discouraging to see a 3 there, but I mean it's okay. It happens a lot. I wish I had all the fancy visuals and everything, but like I said, the way the office is right now, I can't use I can't use a technology that I need to use in order to show you a preview of the website, which I actually have set up, but it's just not going to be bridging with the phone tonight, so unfortunately. Um Anyways, the idea with the King James Bible translators putting a note in the margin, they said that that they would do that, especially when they're, make sure I don't think the Wi-Fi. Oh, the Wi-Fi is not on, but it doesn't seem like it has to be. If the connection is doing okay and you guys are hearing everything, then please let me know. The King James translators put a note in their margin, and it said, or Daystar. Now that's fascinating, because what they said about these hopox legomenon, the words that only occur once, is that they would put a note in the translation in the margin next to the translation of the word that they chose, and they would do that to give the reader a sense of the original languages, so that they would not dogmatize upon the translation that they chose, so that they would look into things for themselves, and so that they would be able to benefit from having two perspectives on the original word that was used by God in the text. So, that being said, Gale has faulted modern translations for about 30 years for using the words day star instead of Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12. Problem is, the King James translators themselves, in the margin of their text, recognized it as a valid translation, a second sense, but they chose Lucifer. I think mostly because of the tradition that comes behind the word. It was used in every other English translation prior, and they decided to stick with it for their own. That's my personal thought. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, and I would run to Gale for so many things at that point in time. I shot her an email and I said, this is pointed out. I didn't realize this before. What am I supposed to make of this? And what she said is that she didn't really have the time to go into everything that the King James translator said in their preface, but the reason that they included that note was to give cultural context, because the ancient pagans called Lucifer the morning star. And of course, when they were doing that, they were saying that Satan is their savior. That's the gist that you're supposed to get from what Gale says. And she implored me to not get pulled under the tree of knowledge, because that's where Satan reigns and all this other stuff. And I was like, okay. So I went and I checked the preface, and that's not what they said. They said that they would give a better sense and not to dogmatize. Let's see. Hey, I actually made the live stream. Woo. That's cool. That's cool. I like it when somebody's able to come, and somebody that wants to come. I really like it. Colin, I'm not sure. I've seen you around, so yeah, I appreciate you coming. So that's what she said, and I was just like, that doesn't fly, because it's like, just because the pagans use this word doesn't mean that it's evil. And it's like, okay, so if it's cultural or whatever, then that doesn't tell me that the modern translations are new age or something. So I had to ask my own questions. I had to do my own research, and I found out that Gale was wrong. Will Kinney also, to the same point. He wrote an extensive article where he went into so much research. But the problem is that most of the time, because the main thing that he does in his article on Brand Plucked, I believe is the name of his website, I'm not sure how it all works out because he had to transfer it and everything, but I think it's still called Brand Plucked and all that. The main thing that he had to do was prove in his article that Lucifer is a valid translation of the underlying Hebrew. So what he did is he went through everything that he could and showed that just about everybody translated it or recognized Lucifer as being a valid translation. Problem was, about halfway through his article, he kind of turns and goes, actually, Lucifer is the only valid translation of this word. And then he starts trying to defend that. And when he starts trying to do that, he ends up ignoring them because he's using all these resources, so many of them. A lot of them I'm going to have to incorporate on the page. I haven't scratched the surface of how many he's actually referenced. I include his article as a link on the website, but I want to actually look at the references he cites. So about halfway through his article, he starts trying to prove that it's the only valid translation of the passage, and that Day Star, Morning Star, Shining One, all these other ones don't fly. And the problem with that is that when he actually cites somebody and puts them on his page, what happens is he ignores the parts that actually tell you the true identity of who Lucifer to that author, what Lucifer actually meant. And he also ignores the parts where Lucifer is synonymous with the words Day Star, Morning Star, Shining One. He kind of pretty much glosses over those and acknowledges, oh, Lucifer is a valid translation, but then it's the only translation, and then ignores, all the stuff that doesn't jive with the narrative that he's trying to create. This, I believe, is a common problem with Will Kinney's research. There are lots of other people that have actually touched on this subject. Jardis Bow did in his book, Book of Bible Problems. He actually wrote another article about how Lucifer cannot be the morning star or something like this. I forget what the title was. Gail offers it through her website. It's available online. I have a link for it on the website. When that comes up, you guys will have full access to all of the stuff. I think David Daniels talked to it or spoke to it. Just about every person that opens their mouth or, puts their pen to paper, either defending the King James Bible, defending King James onlyism, attacking modern translations as being influenced by some sort of New Age conspiracy, all of this kind of stuff. Just about every single person has touched on this question of, should it be Lucifer or should it be Daystar? And the problem is that I have found, and it's represented right up until, I believe it was, I don't remember if he posted it today or yesterday, right up until today, with Brandon Peterson, who has a much, much larger following than I do. And that's okay. But what I don't like is when I see something being spread on a larger channel, especially by a friend, to a lot more people that are just trusting the creator that they see on their screen, and they just leave it at that. And they just go, "Yep, this is my dude. He did research, and this and the way that, especially, that Brandon is able to dress things, he does an excellent job with production and his graphics and his screenplay and everything. I love it. But the problem is that when you promote something that is so oversimplified that it's actually a falsehood, it's a no-go. And it grieves me to see that kind of stuff being spread still today. So like I said, we're working on a webpage talking all about it. So, a couple other English translation things that I want to bring up. I mentioned there was 4. The King James translation, very, very, very fascinating. I actually have quotations on the website. Brandon, thank you, Brandon, for actually bringing up a couple of them. I have citations from 2 of the King James translators. I want to see if I can find more that actually speak to the idea of who Lucifer is. One of them refers to Satan as being Lucifer, and refers to Isaiah 14:12 as being a reference to Satan. He was actually on the committee, not the committee, I believe his name was George Abbott, I want to say. I think it was George Abbott. No, George Abbott was the other guy. This guy was William something. And he served on the second Cambridge, I believe, committee. Anyways, the committee which actually dealt with Isaiah through Malachi. So I have a sneaking suspicion that this guy was part of the reason why they chose Lucifer over Daystar. So, another guy, I believe it was George Abbott, on the other committee that worked on the Gospels, Acts, and Revelation. I believe it was First Oxford, but I can't remember. He actually writes in his book a commentary on Jonah, commentary especially on Jonah 3:6, I want to say, that Lucifer is the planet Venus. And he references a saint that actually compares Lucifer, Venus, the morning star, the day star, whatever you want to call it, they're synonyms, okay? Which, by the way, there's no synonym for synonym. Think about that for a while. So this saint guy, or whoever he is, compares the rising of the morning star to the word of God being sown in Christians' hearts, being the savor of life unto life, and its setting of being a savor of death unto death. So it's a fascinating perspective, and that's all going to be included on the website, like I said. So stay tuned for that. When it goes, I want to publish it live for you guys. I want to do the same thing with the Hermas and Barnabas page. Both of those, I want to be live on screen with you guys when it goes live, so you guys can all jump on the page with me, scroll up and down, click links, get distracted and all that. Again, just trying to make sure I'm not being paged. My wife did try calling through. I'm not quite sure why, but she knows that it's kind of hard to stop this right at this second. Hang on a second. Okay, so just had somebody unsubscribe, Matthew C, that I'm out of control and all this stuff. And it's just like, dude, I'm sorry. We have to ask these questions. That's what this channel is about. I'm sorry. So, all the English translations, Wycliffe on up, they all say Lucifer. They all translate the word Lucifer. But the problem is that if you look at them closely, they don't actually teach, and Will Kinney references these English translations. They don't actually teach that Lucifer in the passage is Satan. The Matthew's Bible has a note in the margin that doesn't even mention Satan. The Matthew's Bible, written by John Rogers, I believe his name was, he writes in his margin that it is applying to Nebuchadnezzar, if I'm not mistaken. And the Geneva Bible has a similar note. Will Kinney, he cites the Geneva Bible and the Matthew's Bible and the Wycliffe Bible as well. While he cites them because they translate it as Lucifer, he does not show that the translators themselves were not recognizing that word as being Satan. In their notes, or actually a clear example, if you read the Wycliffe translation, you see that John Wycliffe, he wrote Lucifer, which rises early, and like alongside of, son of the morning. He translated it as which rises early, I believe, because of Latin influence. And also I think rises early, and also used to rise early is another rendering of that phrase. But when you look at the actual passage from Wycliffe, it's clear that what he's talking about is not Satan. It's talking about the morning star, the planet Venus, or whatever, which is what the ancients, and which is what classically has been recognized as Lucifer. Venus is called Lucifer when it's rising, and when it's setting in the sky, it's called Hesperus. That is the classical understanding of the word Lucifer. And if I remember correctly, it is called Lucifer. When it's called Lucifer, it is recognized as being of a female gender. So it's a feminine word. So, like, all languages assign gender to their words. English, I don't think, really does, but most other languages do. Latin's not accepted. And in Latin, when someone says, "Oh, look, there's the morning star," what they say is, "Oh, Lucifer." And this is a big thing too with Gale when you get to "in awe of thy word." I think we've pretty much finished the idea of the English translations for right now, the old ones. When you look over at Gale's research, and you follow this question of the translation of Lucifer, the problem is not just in New Age Bible versions, but it goes over into "in awe of thy word." Gale heavily faults the Latin Vulgate, which Brian Ross is doing a lot of research into. He's actually coming out with a couple of books very soon that go into the whole idea of the two streams of manuscripts thing, and shows that it's actually faulty, and has been recognized as faulty ever since Seventh-day Adventist Benjamin Wilkinson actually came up with it. So it's a very, very interesting study, and I'm looking forward to when he comes out with that. And he does not necessarily agree with me on this Lucifer stuff. He feels that it's a prophecy. It's a taunt that will be rehearsed against, like, the fall of the Antichrist or something. So that's what he feels. We have a lot of discussing to do on it, I believe. But these are my thoughts, and I want to hear what you think. So far, I at least have one comment of somebody that's just like, "Unsubscribe, this guy's evil." Okay, got it. All right. So when you go over into New Age Bible versions, Gale's like, "Oh, the Latin Vulgate by Jerome is evil, satanic, dark, death metal," because it translates when you go over into the New Testament and you look at Jesus Christ being called the day star, morning star. How long we've been going? 38 minutes? Not bad. When you go over into the New Testament where Jesus Christ is called the day star and the morning star, the Latin Vulgate translates day star and morning star there as Lucifer. I think there's 3 different times actually in the New Testament where he's called the day star or the morning star. And each of them he uses the word, Jerome uses the word Lucifer. So, "Oh, I can't believe it. Jerome was teaching Satanism. He was teaching that Satan is the savior. He was teaching that Jesus was Satan." Was he? Was he? Not if Lucifer is synonymous with Venus shining when morning star, day star. If it's synonymous, then guess what? There's no real problem. And Gale has been making an issue about the Latin Vulgate ever since she started talking about this stuff. She would fault it for saying it literally translated, it says Lucifer Rising, and that's a title of a rock album or something. And it's like, okay, so interesting. Oh, and let me just say this for the whole Luciferian connection and stuff. People will say, and one of the common things that people say is, "Oh no, Joseph, you're wrong. This is all a bunch of hooey." What you're saying is that, it does not take into consideration that the Luciferians know exactly who Lucifer is. And okay, so they say this because they know who they worship, stuff like this. And it's just like, okay, so I've heard that 100 times. My answer to that is that they do. Yes, they do. But the thing is that a lot of them believe that Lucifer, Satan, all this stuff is a construct developed by the Roman Catholic Church. And they would actually use the word Lucifer in the Christian popular tradition. It's a popular tradition, but it's not sound contextually, and pretty much everybody recognizes that. Every reliable commentator does not recognize, the Satan interpretation of Isaiah 14 is the only valid one. They use the idea that Lucifer is used in Isaiah 14 to begin with. They use that as fodder, and they can historically and linguistically show that he isn't actually Satan, but the church teaches you that it is. They use this to say that the Roman Catholic Church invented Satan. And then they take it a step further and they say, actually, the light of Lucifer is actually the light of Jesus Christ, because Lucifer is actually what Jesus Christ is called in the New Testament in the Latin. And oh, wow, I can't believe this. Oh, my paradigm is completely changed. Maybe these people actually know something about, all this occultism and stuff, and I should check it out. In my humble opinion, that is why a lot of this is perpetuated. And like I said, I already know that I'm going to lose support. I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to lose people that enjoy the channel. I'm going to lose subscribers. I'm going to lose a lot, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. But prove me wrong. Don't just say, you're unhinged, unsubscribe. Prove me wrong. I mean, you're more than welcome to just unsubscribe and leave. That's up to you. But the problem is you can't change the facts by hitting an unsubscribe button. You can ignore the facts that way and continue on believing what you've always believed, but that's going to be a problem for you down the line. There's 4 major views that I've also identified on the translation of Lucifer. The first one is the popular man in the pew interpretation that Lucifer is Satan in the passage. The second basic one is the people that are students of the passage, that have studied it, that have commented on it, that have done their due diligence for the passage, which I will say that most of the hotheads that I've heard back from since I started talking about this have not done their homework, Gail Ripplinger included. The problem is, that is the problem, is that they don't look into it for themselves. People that do look into it for themselves, they recognize the possibility that Lucifer could be a secondary application of the passage, but they recognize the primary one is where there is a taunt. These people are taunting a fallen king who was a tyrant, who was a physical dude that died and shed blood and everything like this, and was, buried in crap. Sorry. Pardon my, that's not French, but pardon it anyways, please. All this stuff happened to this guy. And they're like, oh, wow, you were like that shining star up in the heavens. And my goodness, how did a star fall out of the sky? Ha! Look at you now. That's basically how the passage reads if you go and read Isaiah 13 on through. And don't just eisegete the verse. I think that's the term. So yeah. It's crazy nonsense. That's the second view. The third view is the King James only view, that the only possible interpretation of the conspiratorial King James only view, that the only possible interpretation of the passage is that, it's only Satan, and if you say day star, morning star, you're trying to lead us into the new age and all this stuff. That's the third basic view. And the fourth one is the one taken by your Luciferians, your Satanists, and your cultists. Basically saying, oh, Lucifer is our god, and he is loosely identified with Satan. But the thing is that when you actually get into these occult religions, Lucifer and Satan are two different people. They don't, from what I have understood, and what from King James actually understood when he wrote the demonology. Gail didn't tell you that King James made comments on Lucifer and its translation in the demonology, did she? She quotes from it multiple times in An Awe of Thy Word, but she doesn't tell you what he said about Lucifer. If I remember correctly, he actually makes a distinction between Lucifer and Satan and other devils, which is the common one when you get into occultism, especially the stuff that follows after the Men in Black. They call Satan. They recognize Satan, Lucifer. I think the dragon, Beelzebub. All these different ones are separate in witchcraft. So that's the basic understanding of the occultism side. And guess what King James said about it? He said that Lucifer is the day star. And if you check the notes that the one author provides, I forget his name, but he has a footnote number 7, and he actually talks about how Lucifer is literally what Lucifer is intended to mean is the planet Venus. So it's just a very interesting thing. Oh, and also they discussed this whole question on the Ankerberg show, and I'm going to hopefully be able to include that on the webpage as well, because they made some interesting comments on that too. And I really, every time I think about it, I really wish that Ripplinger and Ruckman would have had the spines to show up and talk toe to toe with these translators that they so vehemently lambast and think are evil, wicked people, and oh, you're setting a trap for... Yeah, okay. Only 3 guys showed up. Sam Gipp, Joseph Chambers, and the other guy, Thomas. I always forget his name, but he was there too. And oh yeah, that guy. He was in that other. Yeah, he was in that other movie. Oh yeah, the guy that was in that movie. Yeah, that's right. So, but anyways, he Strauss. I want to say his last name was Strauss, Thomas Strauss. Now that I'm thinking of it, but yeah, the Ankerberg thing was just an absolute for King James only stuff. It was ridiculous. Oh yeah, and Don Wilkins didn't lose his voice there on the show. I've talked to him about it, and yeah, we've spoken about it on the channel before. I'm gonna see what your comment is real quick. Colin, hang on one second. Let's see. So, hey, I actually made the live stream. All right. Do you think the use of Lucifer could be an example of the high church Anglicanism or Anglican bias of the translators showing? I don't necessarily think that. The reason why is because every English translation before the King James Bible actually has that in it. From the ones that I've seen, Wycliffe, Matthews, King James, Geneva, the bishops, all these guys. Tyndale, I believe, too. From what Will Kinney has also said, every single one that he's checked has the word Lucifer in the text. But then you check the notes, you see what the translators actually thought, and they were not. Oh, this is referring to Satan. Actually, none of them were. One guy, like I said, the one guy on the Isaiah to Malachi committee, he actually thought, that there was that Lucifer meant Satan, but another translator on another one of the committees recognized that Lucifer is a synonym for Venus. It's basically Venus is I believe the Greek or the Roman word, I forget, I think Venus is the Roman word, or no, the Greek word, and then Aphrodite might also be connected in there too. And that's where Gail kind of fell off too. Is she was like, oh look, they're trying to say that Lucifer is androgynous. He's male, he's female. It's so weird. What's going on with this occulty weird stuff? Well, the reason is because classically, Lucifer was recognized as a synonym for Venus, basically the Latin word for the planet Venus. And when it was rising, it was considered female, and when it was setting, it was considered male. Or maybe vice versa. I forget. It's correct on the page. My mind is not what it used to be. So anyways, that's a lot of the stuff off the top of my head. So yeah, let's take a look at some of your stuff here. Okay, so like I said, I don't think that was the high church influence necessarily, but the thing too is that Lucifer became recognized as being Satan. I think mostly because of the Middle Ages. Like Timothy Alberino points out in Birthright, which I'm listening through now. I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says, but there's a lot of really good parts too. He recognized the anecdote that where ignorance where ignorance where knowledge is harder to get, or knowledge is not increasing, where you don't have knowledge, superstition just goes nuts and just does whatever it wants. So that's one thing that I think is that the Middle Ages actually helped a lot of this whole idea that Lucifer was that Lucifer in the passage is Satan. One of the reasons that I think that too, I've got to find Martin Luther, see if he had any comments about it. But John Calvin, the great reformer of Geneva, who was way off on his eschatology a lot of the time, and his soteriology too, by the way. In my opinion, I'm not reformed, so that should be pretty obvious by now. He had some very choice words to say about the idea that Lucifer is Satan. I actually sent his comments to Brandon. He kind of responded. I forget what he said, but not really anything huge. But I think one of the reasons why John Calvin was so opposed to the idea that Lucifer only meant Satan in Isaiah 14:12 is because he was coming out of Roman Catholicism. And he reading the passage for himself, he was just like, this is clearly not referring to Satan. And he regarded it as a fairy tale that could be ignored and nothing would be lost, because it just had no part of the text whatsoever. So that's one of John Calvin's comments about it, and we'll be including the full quotation and a link to where you can find more of what he said about the passage on our website, coming to a computer screen near you as soon as I can, because I've got a lot of work to do on it. I've got a little marker that I move down the screen as I fix things. I've got a lot of grouping to do because a lot of the citations are out of order, so I've got to group them and shift them around, and there's just so much stuff, and then there's going to be things I'll need to add, and it's a long process. And this is a passion project, and it's crowd-funded. If you guys want to be co-conspirators and be on the edge of this development, go right ahead, become a co-conspirator. It's $7 a month. buymeacoffee.com/Joseph Armstrong. If you're interested in that, you have a direct line to me through our app, the Buy Me a Coffee app, and you guys can get a hold of me there. You guys get access to anything that we post that's member exclusive. So yeah, if you want to join, please do. I would appreciate it very much. It helps keep the lights on. It helps keep the website up. It helps keep our StreamYard, which is what I'm streaming right through right now. It helps us be able to keep that subscription. If it wasn't for our co-conspirators, we would not be doing this. And I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate all the support that we have had over the years and continue to have. It's fantastic. Okay, so Avenue BCD. I'm going to display that for a second so you guys can look at it. And then I'll move on to the next one. Colon, I believe it was Jerome. It was the first to use Lucifer in his Latin Vulgate. That is not true. Sorry. Sherry, if I dare use your name publicly. That's not true. If I'm not mistaken, the Old Latin, and this is one of the things that I wanted to say about Know of Thy Word. The Old Latin says the same thing. I may be bluffing on that. I've tried to check the Old Latin readings in the New Testament, where Lucifer is used in the Vulgate and Isaiah 14:12 in the Old Latin, but I haven't had a chance to do it. I am highly suspicious because Gale faults the Latin Vulgate as this horrible satanic thing because it calls Jesus Christ and Satan Lucifer at the same time. This thing is that she doesn't realize that even Mary herself is called Lucifer by the Roman Catholic Church today. It's the phrase morning star that they're trying to portray here. Please. Anyways, if I was Italian, I'd be so mad. So if I'm not mistaken, the Old Latin also says Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12 and in the, I believe, 3 passages in the New Testament and possibly more places too. The reason why I'm suspicious of that is because Gale faults Jerome for saying that, using Lucifer in both spots. But she never discusses what the Old Latin says, even though in the same context she praises the Old Latin for being so pure and wonderful. And why? Because that's what Benjamin Wilkinson told her through Peter Ruckman, through Jack Chick, through all these people that took the line through David Otis Fuller. And it turns out that the 2 manuscript idea stream is full of sound and fury signifying nothing. So yeah. You look down there, that button that says unsubscribe. Go right ahead and do it right now. If you don't want to know the truth, and I do, I might be wrong. Prove me wrong, please. I'd love to see it, please. And I've been proven wrong before, and I've admitted it. So yeah, bring it on. Change my mind. I'm that guy sitting out on the curb with the sign and a cup of coffee. Let's see. So that would be, I believe it was Jerome was the first to use Lucifer in his Latin Vulgate. It was the closest to the Hebrew Hallel for the morning star. Isaiah 14 is a taunt on the king of Babylon. Yes. Let's see. The king of Babylon is being mocked by being as the morning star / day star. The 1611 translators have day star in their marginal notes. And that's one thing that Brandon actually recognized, is that they do have that marginal note. But the problem is, for him, because he's like, oh no, see, they put it in the text. The real reason that they chose it is because they were led by God to, they were inspired to put it there. To put Lucifer in the text and put Daystar in the margin. They made the right choice. They made the inspired choice. They made the only accurate choice, because Lucifer equals Satan alone. And sorry, that's not true. So, anyways. And like I said earlier in this video, Hapax Legomenon, King James translators talked about it in their translators to the readers, and that they would put notes next to it to show you a greater sense, so you would not dogmatize on translations that they put in the text themselves. They wrote a letter to you telling you about how to read their translation, and people haven't put it in the Bible where they print it today. It's not as frequent. It's kind of coming back, but usually it's not in there, and it's hurt Bible reading. It's hurt a lot. Anyhow. Oh, yes, Ford Hughes. Yeah, you're the guy that was like, oh, so now you're defending Lucifer. Oh, I see how it is. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm not defending Satan. I want to be clear. Got it. And then he's like, oh yeah. Oh, you're trying to, the ego or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to get into it an awful lot right now, but let's just say it was hilarious. To question the spine. Got it. Okay, so let me just tell you, Peter Ruckman and Gail Ripplinger did not show up to that discussion. I'm showing up to this discussion. And let me know if you want to have more discussion about it too. I'm not just going to say that you're setting a trap for me or something, which you may be. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say with that comment, but whatever it is, I don't have any confidence that it's trying to be respectful from our interactions before. Board. Okay, and then the next comment from Ford, which you've been able to read and I haven't read yet. Oh, let's see, because when I select the comment to be viewed on your end, it highlights over it, so I can't read it. So that's why I have to read them this way, because I have to read them on the phone. It's a great handicap streaming this way. All right. Listening to you question Ripplinger's and Ruckman's spine is pretty funny, in my opinion. Like, who even are you? Okay, let's get this straight. Gail Ripplinger did not show up to the Ankerberg show because she thought it was a trap. That's why she didn't show up. And she was like, yeah, and I was right too. Peter Ruckman didn't show up. Both of them declined. If both of them would have shown up and actually gone toe-to-toe with the translators, maybe they could have said something worth hearing. But the problem is, they didn't. When their works are scrutinized, they don't hold up. Peter Ruckman misrepresents things very, very often. Gail Ripplinger misrepresents people very, very often, has lousy documentation in her book, and I've proven it on this channel. I've proven how she's lied about me 1,000 times. And there's a lady here as well. Let me just tell you real quick. There's a lady here too that she's lied about blatantly and disgustingly. I'm not going to get into it right now. Maybe that'll be a subject for a future video. Like, who even are you? Just because I don't get up there and do chalk talks and have, a book that was self-published, Gail Ripplinger's book, doesn't mean that somebody that's actually getting on the YouTube platform, putting their name, their reputation, everything else like this on the line, making videos, putting in the work, putting in the research. That's who I am. That's who any of us are. We are individuals, Peter Ruckman, Gail Ripplinger, individuals who people respected because they did something that nobody else did. Right now, I am online, and I'm doing something that nobody else is doing, and I dare say most people don't have the courage to actually do. And I would like to know, and you don't have to tell me. It's not up to me to go to size you up or anything, and it's not up to you to size me up either. Who does Ford Hughes want to be? When I grow up, I want to be able to say that I looked fairly at all the available information and I drew a well-informed conclusion as to the facts. Do I want to grow up and say, oh yeah, I memorized Gail Ripplinger and Peter Ruckman and what they said, and yeah, that's right. No, I don't, because I want to be responsible. Peter Ruckman, in his Ruckman Reference Bible, on the note on Isaiah 14:12, he says that the literal translation, and look it up, Ford, he says the literal translation of the word in Hebrew, Hallel, is shining one. He doesn't say it's Satan. He doesn't say it's Lucifer. He says that the literal translation of Hallel is shining one. And guess what? That's exactly the word that the Net Bible uses. Think about that. Oh yeah, and then by the end of the note, he's recommending Gail Riplinger's evaluation of the word Lucifer in New Age Bible versions, especially chapter 2, apparently. Praying to a new god, Lucifer, which I made an audiobook for because I used to believe in what Gail Riplinger said. Until I started evaluating the available evidence for myself, checking her sources, checking her against the facts, against the truth, and I found out that she was extremely lacking. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that rubs you the wrong way. I'm sorry if that makes you want to unsubscribe to me or something. It's just true. And you can't stop the truth. Even though it takes forever for the truth to put its boots on, while a lie goes around the world at light speed, like Gail Riplinger's book did, and just went, because it burned real bright for like what, the 90s maybe? And now it's just like a really small, tiny little group that has any kind of confidence in her at all. And I will dare say that most of these people have done no fact checking on her work, probably including you, Ford. When you're done actually looking into what you're reading and what you're accepting for yourself, let's talk. Like, who even are you? Okay, got it. Let's see. Avenue ABCD. Sadly, Lucifer became the name of Satan from before he fell, but the Bible never backs this anywhere. Never backs this anywhere else. That is true. We have been told, and this is why I put it on the first view that I mentioned, the pop culture versus man in the pew view, which is the same one that Gail Riplinger had, which is the same one that Gail Riplinger never gave up, which is the same one that Gail Riplinger holds to this day, even though she's done some research and she has ignored so much evidence, it's insane, because all of the evidence is in the books she's citing. She loves John Gill. She sent him a Valentine all the way back to, 18 whatever when he was alive. And or 18, it might not even been 18. I forget when he was alive. I forget his birth years and everything. I'm pretty sure he died in 1771. But, she got a Valentine from him. And maybe we'll talk about that next week. And what John Gill said about Lucifer. John Gill, Ford, just so you know. The one that she cites over and over and over again as an extremely valuable Hebrew authority. Oh, so amazing. Charles Haddon Spurgeon's favorite scholar. New Age Bible Versions, page 432, I believe. Or not New Age Bible Versions, and all of that word. She quotes him so much for the points of the Mazanims, the Hebrew vowel points around the Hebrew letters. That they were original and that they came from Moses. The same John Gill wrote a commentary on the entire Bible. And guess what he said about Isaiah 14:12? Guess. He said that it has absolutely no application to Satan. And that it's a taunt against a physical human king of Babylon that would cut, you could cut him and he'd bleed. Oh, well, he was wrong. He was just a man. Okay, I get it now. The famous double standard. He's a valuable, amazing, beautiful, eloquent, scholarly person when he agrees with me. But then when he disagrees with me, I don't have to listen to what he says. He's not God. He didn't say that Lucifer was a bad translation. I'm not saying Lucifer is a bad translation. I'm saying that it's kind of misleading because when we look at Lucifer today, we just go, oh, I know what that means. It's Satan. But in the passage, it's not talking about Satan. It's comparing the king of Babylon's defeat to a planetary body falling on the ground. And it's clear when you read the passage. But if you don't want to read the passage and you just want to read the verse, then cool. Just don't engage on the subject if you haven't done any research. That's all I got to say. It's been made into a doctrine by assumption. Yeah, it kind of is a doctrine. It's really sad how that assumption just becomes, and John Calvin talks about that in that the comment that I mentioned. He's like, a careless reading of this passage that isn't contextual led to just this gross misrepresentation of the word Lucifer. What I would have to say too, who the heck is Peter Ruckman and Gail Ripplinger versus somebody like John Gill, or King James, or George Abbott, or John Calvin, or what's that other guy's name? Oh, there's just too many people to list off the top of my head. Let me know how you enjoy the website when that goes live. Okay, let's see. Did you see the video yesterday from Truth is Christ? The title is The Real Reason the KJV Translators Chose Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12. Yes. Martino. Berto. Yes. That's one of the main reasons I talked about it earlier. One of the main reasons I'm making this video. It was only 11 minutes long. I respect Brandon. Like I say, he's done a tremendous job in production. He has a much larger channel than I do. He is one of my friends. I consider him a friend. I love a lot of his research. He's really put a lot of work into this stuff. But the problem is he has not done a lot of research on the idea of the translation Lucifer in Isaiah 14:12. And having an 11-minute video where you only talk about the actual question, about maybe like a third of the video, it doesn't help you be able to cover it's such a vast and nuanced question that it is just about impossible to cover in 11 minutes. That's why we've been going for an hour and 12. So the longest I want to go is an hour and a half. So we're going to be signing off here pretty soon, I hope. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video. And I've been talking to Brandon about it. I sent the John Calvin quote to him, the John Gill quote. Just there's so many things that I've sent him to consider. We've had some dialogue on it. The last thing, he's out for the evening right now, but I sent him a voice message as the last thing, just being like, hey, I'm not trying to pressure you to change your documentary or anything, but I do want to challenge you to look into this for yourself without the King James only lens of bias on the question, because it is not what we've been led to believe it is. And one of my main concerns is that the actual conspiracy is getting away scot-free while a bunch of King James only people are busy filling up the algorithm with all this nonsense about things that can be easily disproven. My goodness, what am I? What exactly? Who am I? I'm graphic design. I'm a graphic designer, and I work at a hardware store. And I'm proving these great men and women of God's word and stuff like this that are defending it for the end times, just before the Antichrist comes and everything. They're hollow. You could poke a hole right through them. It's ridiculous. It's a facade. If I can walk up to them and tell the whole thing is phony just by doing a couple of hours of research, after I believed everything that they said for over a decade and promoted it online, if I can see it, maybe some of you guys out there with doctorates in theology, some of you guys that have way more passion and time to be able to devote to this than I do. I've got 4 little kids and a full-time job. I don't have the time to put into this. It's, Go ahead. Show me how wrong I are. I would love to see it. Like I've said on this channel 100 times before, and this is something you will not get from most other King James only channels. Most of them, they toe the line, they sing the song, and that's what they do. They're going to keep their subscribers. Me, I don't care. I want to know the truth, and I know that the people that want to be with this channel, people that want to follow this channel, also want to know the truth, and I appreciate you sticking around for it because not a lot of people do. Most other people want to stay in their echo chambers, and it's a sad, sad thing because there are plenty of King James only echo chambers out there for them to hop right into and listen to the sweet little, KJV only jingles. If it ain't King James, it ain't Bible, and all this other stuff. And Lucifer is a or Lucifer is the only possible translation. Daystar is a mistranslation. All the NIV people are actually Satanists. Jingle, jingle, jingle. It's easy to prove, it's easy to find, it's easy to research today, especially we have a phone that you can bring up any old thing you want and just, holy cow. We have a responsibility, guys. We have a responsibility to the next generation to not tell them a whole bunch of lies just because somebody else told them to us. And we didn't check them. This topic gets me stirred up. You wanna know why I sit out here for 2 hours in a freezing cold car, and why I'm up late at night working on websites and designs and videos and scripts and all this other nonsense, and why every available opportunity that I have during the day where I don't have it something else that I'm doing or spending time with the family and everything else like this, why I'm pouring it into this is because it's a passion. It's a passion project of mine. And there's so much that has to be done that nobody else is doing. And it's very, very sad. There are other people out there that are doing a really great job. I don't want to downplay them. I don't want to say that they're nobodies. Please don't take it that way. But there's a lot that needs to be said, and it's going unsaid, and it needs to change. I'll get off of my soapbox now. So yeah, that was Martino. Avenue says Luther used the word Morgenstern in the Bible. Morgenstern means morning star. Now that's something too. Peter Ruckman praised Luther's translation over and over and over and over and over again. And if Luther is translating it as morning star, oh, that's right, Gail Ripplinger, the woman who never debates anyone and pretends that the entire Ankerberg show lineup declined her when they did not. Don Wilkins said, I'd never even heard anything about this. But they would have had to have completely altered the format and made it Gail Ripplinger versus everybody else, which it wasn't intended to be. It was to be a discussion between 5 individuals on one side and 5 individuals on another side. They weren't going to go with her terms of setting up her own audio and visual equipment and I need equal time to everybody else and all this other stuff. It wasn't the format. So they're just like, no, we're not doing that. And she's like, well, then I'm not showing up. And then she pretended that they chickened out and they didn't want to debate her. Goodness. Just about everything you get from Gail, by the way, is either a half-truth or a completely opposite lie. And I know, because I've been on the receiving end of it, I've supported her for over a decade. Did a lot of work for her. And I started questioning her. And she had access to everything that I was doing, and even the questioning that I was doing. And she could have said, hey, Joseph, I heard this on the secret stream. I wanted to talk to you about it. She didn't want to do that. She wanted to post a PDF up on her wall so everybody could ooh and ah over it. And it hurt. You like being lied about? Now all those streams that she was in on that she quotes in that thing, those are public and you can look at them. And you don't have to take her word for it. And when you look at those streams versus what she published, completely opposite of the truth. Gail Ripplinger has a very interesting relationship with facts. I will say that. Lucifer used the word Morgenstern. So yeah. Martino says, and I'm sorry, I don't have really any lighting out here. Let me try to boost it a little bit with that. I don't need to illumine the back seat necessarily. I've got a bunch of trash back there in a laundry basket, so I'll probably leave that one off for now. My flashlight's making a little bit of a difference. I hope it's not making any like flashing or anything. Maybe that'll be a little better. I don't know. Sorry I missed the beginning, though obviously sorry I missed the beginning. You obviously saw it. Okay, cool. All right. So yes, you. Okay, cool beans. Let's see. Next one. Alden. Yeah, I think that's it. Alden. That's the one translator that I meant. That was on the Isaiah to Malachi committee. William Alden. Also wrote Isaiah 28, or sorry, Ezekiel 28 was only about the king of Tyre, but it was obviously about Lucifer because it talked about anointed cherub who was in Eden and is covered in all precious stones. So I get that. Timothy Alberino talks about that too. A lot of people talk about that one. I think that one is a lot more likely of a candidate to be about, Satan or whatever. But the thing is I can also see how it's not. So, I mean, it could be. I will say that it could be. I haven't looked into that passage. I'm not going to speak to it because I haven't looked into it. But I will say from the outset, from what I have seen in Isaiah 14, that there are a lot of parallels that go into that. And the cherub idea, does it mean angel, or does it go more to its root of something that's burning? The stones of fire, does Timothy Alberino puts forward the idea that those are the planets. Stones of fire, I've always thought, maybe not always thought, but I've thought of gems that are bright and look like they're burning. A lot of other people are like, oh, the stones of fire are something in heaven that angels walk on. All this stuff. Being in Eden, the garden of God, I don't know what the context is on that. I haven't checked many commentaries. Actually, I haven't checked any commentaries on that passage. So there's a lot to explore on that avenue. But that is kind of at this point, I'm considering kind of a fork in the road when it comes to the actual question of the translation of Lucifer in Isaiah 14. So I haven't gotten into that yet. Let's see. Martino, like New Jerusalem, is covered with all precious stones, coincidentally. Like I said, it could be. I don't know. I don't know how it all worked out. But I do want to see the context of it, what other passages say. A lot, like I said, a lot of the commentaries and everything. There's a lot to consider. And I'm working on a lot right now. If you guys want to see this thing go full time, and for me to be able to pour myself into this on a full time level or even a part time level would be insane. Go right ahead, sign up for the Buy Me a Coffee thing. $7 a month. It's not going to break the bank, but it helps take this channel one step closer to us being able to pour aim every gun I can, pour every drop I can into this whole thing. And of course, with lots of vacations, lots of breaks, lots of family time, all that stuff. But yeah, I would love to be able to do this for a living. The only way it can happen is crowdfunding. And Buy Me a Coffee is the way to go. buymeacoffee.com/Joseph Armstrong. Let's see. Ford Hughes. So when Pike, Bailey, Blavatsky, Crowley, etc. mention their what? you must accidentally hit enter. Hang on. I'll catch up with you in a second. But yes, the reason why they mention Lucifer and say that he is the same force as Jesus is because they didn't understand the way that it's used in the Bible either. That's why I don't promote the ideas that Satanists, Luciferians, and occultists have of the word Lucifer as the correct interpretation. So that's that. Let's see. ABCD. Yep, they mentioned putting senses in the margins. Yep. I've got a few more, actually quite a few more comments to go through. I'll catch up eventually. Yep, okay. It's hard to read the black text on the, it's so much better to read it on a dark screen, so I'm going to flip to the next one. So in Pike, Bailey, Blavatsky, Crowley, Parsons, yes, so Parsons with NASA, Crowley with Crowleyism, Crowleyanity, you know, the beast, 666, all that. Blavatsky with Isis Unveiled. Bailey, I forget what all she did, but I believe she was a disciple of Blavatsky, if I'm not mistaken. Pike, the Freemason dude, that looks like Santa Claus. All those guys talk about the word Lucifer. And guess what? I don't know if any of them really... Well, actually, no. Crowley did speak Latin. He did. I stand corrected. Speak of Lucifer and their worship / adoration for him. Are they talking about Venus? No. No, they're not. They're talking about the archfiend whom they call Lucifer. Let's get that straight. And let's get this straight too. Popular culture and popular Christianity both use the word Lucifer to describe Satan. If I was to get a book from, I don't know, Dr. David Jeremiah, and I was to open it up and I was to see him use the word Lucifer, am I going to read, nope, that means Venus. Wait, what? He's saying that Venus tempts people? That's ludicrous, man. Dr. David Jeremiah is a whack job. He hasn't done any research, man. I'm not going to say that because I'm not dumb. When I see Dr. David Jeremiah or somebody else like this use the word Lucifer, I can understand that the popular Christian conception of it, the tradition is that that was apparently the name of Satan before he fell. We've all heard the story, but the problem is it's a story. Pike and Bailey and Blavatsky and Crowley and Parsons and all these other dudes are using it that way, the popular way. Lion and lamb, not in the Bible. All kinds of people say it. I heard the other day, J. Vernon McGee said he read the passage, wolf and lamb, and then he said, you know, this is where the lion and lamb lay together and stuff. And it's just like, dude, that's not what the verse said. But it's the popular trope. I'm not sure if that's the correct designation, but it's the popular conception. Who are they worshiping? Well, I'll tell you, mostly they're worshiping themselves. So, and also, I'm not sure how big a deal they really make about Satan. I mean, they do, don't get me wrong. But the thing with like Blavatsky and people like this, they don't really make a big deal about Satan. They would worship the power of Lucifer being like enlightenment and a spiritual gift and stuff like this. Would they? I haven't read enough Blavatsky to know what her actual stance is on a personal devil, but I know a lot of those guys that you just listed did not believe in a personal devil. The guy from Transformation of America, Michael Aquino, Schneblin talks about him. And Schneblin himself, his book, Lucifer Dethroned, he's talking about Satan, okay? He is. I don't remember if it was Michael Aquino that, I think it was Michael. I'm not sure if it was Aquino that didn't believe that Satan even existed. But it was like between him and another guy, I forget who it was, but it was like, one did and one didn't, and all this stuff. It's a concept or it's not, and everything. I'm sorry, but have you done any looking into Ford? Have you looked into any of the stuff, any of the occult, anything on this question? That's something that I need to do too. But I don't know. You're asking these questions, but I really don't think that you want answers. That's the gist I'm getting right here, Ford. All right. So the next the next comment, Avenue. Ford, people have attached Lucifer as Satan, probably to the great joy of Satan. They call him Lucifer because they praise him as the god of light. Yep. That's why, because he's the light bearer and everything. He bears enlightenment, which is one reason why they revere him, because the serpent is supposed to be the one that brought the enlightenment to Eve and the actual, the wisdom and everything like this, and they want the wisdom too, the occult wisdom, the devilish wisdom. They want it, so they get it from him. So they talk about him as being, the god of enlightenment and light and all this stuff. The angel of light. Sorry. Let's see. You seem to be really worried about who Ruckman and Ripplinger are misrepresenting. I'm not worried about who they're misrepresenting. I'm worrying that they did, and that they did it intentionally. Ruckman, there's only a few things where I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not true. Gale, on the other hand, if you want to be King James only, Ford, and if I still wanted to be King James only, I'm just so turned off at this point. It's just ridiculous. If I was, as a King James only person before, I really kind of identifying as myself separately from that stuff, when I supported Gale and I was like starting to really find out that she was lying about everything, I would rather be hearing the truth from somebody that I'm believing. If you're okay with being lied to all the time by Gale Ripplinger, okay. Go right ahead and have fun being lied to. But I'll tell you, every single thing that I've tried to validate from what she said has been a lie. Just about everything that she said about me was a lie. Everything she says about the Shepherd of Hermas was a lie. Everything she said about the Epistle of Barnabas was a lie. The things that I've checked that she said about Bruce Metzger, FF Bruce, the things that I've checked about Westcott, some of them are true, but most of them are like the ones that I've checked anyways. And the other ones that I have yet to check, it's just an absolutely ludicrous situation. She turned everything on its head for the sake of her little conspiracy theory, and it's sickening. And guess what? It doesn't help. It doesn't help a real exposure of a real conspiracy to sit there behind a 700-page book and lie like the devil. You seem to be really worried about who Ruckman and Ripplinger are misrepresenting while being oblivious to the fact that you misrepresent God's word. You have the far greater error. Oh, really? Because Gale's misrepresenting God's word too a lot. And I would love to hear your explanation as to how I'm misrepresenting God's word, Ford. Lay it on me. Avenue. Ford, that's your opinion, and that's all it counts for. An attack on Joseph doesn't prove your argument. You got it. The 1611 translators should have just translated the Hebrew word in the verse instead of carrying over the Latin Lucifer. I would agree, but the thing is that they, I believe, pretty much understood that it was a synonym for the planet Venus. And they just didn't think anything of it. And down the line, it started accumulating more and more and more of this momentum, popularly thinking of Lucifer as being Satan. And now, guess what it is? It's a false friend. Uh-oh. Let's see. Oh, which, by the way, it's actually going to be discussed in Mark Ward's upcoming book. King James words you don't know, you don't know. At least that's what he told me. So anyways. Ford Hughes. Spurgeon knew who Lucifer was. See his sermon entitled The Deceitfulness of Sin. Okay, I will check it. And do you know what else I will check? I will check to see if he wrote anything specifically about the passage in question. I'm looking forward to putting Spurgeon's notes. I actually was thinking about that earlier today. Oh, I don't think I have Spurgeon's notes on the thing. Maybe I do, but I forgot. There's a lot going on, okay? There's a lot going on. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Spurgeon said. But guess what? His favorite scholar, according to Gale, and the guy that filled his pulpit about 100 years before he did, said categorically, and who was actually a much greater scholar than Charles Spurgeon. He was a great preacher. John Gill was a great scholar in Hebrew. And Spurgeon read a lot of the commentaries and everything and loved, apparently, John Gill. I would trust John Gill's evaluation of the language of the passage more than I would Charles Spurgeon. Oh, and by the way, Gail will bring up Charles Spurgeon where she agrees with him, but then, oh yeah, when she doesn't agree with him, he's one of them dirty Calvinist Baptists. Yep, got it. The classic double standard. All right. Oops. Where did I leave off? Here he is. Let's see. I'm gonna have to do this so you guys can see it. There is a spiritual connection between Babylon and Satan. So from a typological approach, Lucifer could be seen as accurate, but directly literal and direct context is definitely the king of Babylon. And yeah. And like I said, I don't have a problem with somebody wanting to see a secondary interpretation, but the problem, my big concern is people making a mountain out of an absolute little molehill, an anthill, a nothing hill, a dip. People making a mountain out of Death Valley. Because Lucifer is just, it's an accurate translation, but then again, it's also misleading. So it's like, yeah, anyways. 10 of you still here. I can't believe it. You guys are awesome. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? So, and don't forget the little bell icon thing. That way you get notified about different posts that we do. I post a lot too. When I think of something, it's just, I post it, and or when I find out something that I'm like, oh, I want to share this, I'll post it to YouTube. So definitely hit that little bell thingy. Oh, let's see. Martino again. According to Father Lewis Campbell, the word Lucifer, which is used during the lighting of the Paschal candle, so Easter time then, on Holy Saturday, refers to Jesus Christ, the light of the world. And it has no connection to Satan. And, yeah. Isn't that interesting? That is interesting. I'm going to screen capture that, if it's going to let me. And I'm going to share it to my Lucifer folder. Woohoo! Thank you for that. I'm going to look that up. Let's see. If I forget to put it on the website, though, please remind me. Next one, Martino has nothing, no connection whatsoever to the devil, and is sometimes, who is sometimes called Lucifer. And Holy Week services are exclusively dedicated to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you, Martino. That's cool. Ezekiel 28:14, you were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. I would, like I said, I think I see more of a connection to Satan there, but I haven't looked into it, like I said. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created till iniquity was found in you. By the abundance of your trading, you became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore, I cast you as a profane thing out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the fiery stones. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. Now, that would be a parallel with Isaiah 14:12. I laid you before kings that they might gaze at you. Now, if that's not prophetic, having Satan laid before kings, it seems like it's more applicable to a man in this case. So that there's like I said, there's a lot that I still have to look into with Ezekiel 28. Dulcie Bookby Branton. Thankfully, there's really good King James / traditional text apologetics outside of Ripplinger. Yes, thank you. So I mean, even if I don't retain a solidly King James traditional text conviction, which, like I said, the jury is still out on, and I've got a lot of stuff to do before I seriously consider a lot of those different avenues. Even if I don't, I am very grateful that there are more responsible people speaking to from that perspective of the debate than Gail Ripplinger. What I'm grieved about is that there's so many people that still take her seriously. That's sad. And it looks like there's one more comment. If you guys have any other comments, any questions, anything like that, we're going to be cutting it off here in a second. I love you guys. We're going to read this last comment, and we're going to be moving on. Alrighty, let's see. I think one could still hold to a KJV / TR conviction and still see the truth of the right interpretation of the word Lucifer. Absolutely, because like I said, it's not a mistranslation. It's a problem of taking King James only arguments as doctrine. It's a misinterpretation by the reader, not an error in the text. Bazinga. I personally don't think there's any translational errors in the King James Bible. Maybe there are. But from what I've seen so far, when the King James Bible differs from modern translations translationally, it's usually sometimes the modern translations, they have a problem from what I've seen, or there's multiple different ways to translate a certain word or phrase and it's kind of ambiguous. So I wouldn't really be able to dogmatize on one or the other, but I would be able to appreciate the perspective that they would give me. That's what I'll say to that for now. And we'll read the last one. There we go. By Avenue The 1611 translators did not capitalize Lucifer, but it's capitalized today due to Benjamin Blaney's 1769 changes. Interesting. Let me double check that, because I don't remember if they did capitalize it or not. I'm going to have to check that out. If I remember correctly, in the notes, and this might help be a key to that whole exploration that you just brought up there. In the marginal note of the 1611 King James Bible, I'm almost positive that in a 1611 printing, you have day, starry, hyphenated, and I believe it's capitalized. Other editions of the King James Bible have it lowercase, day, hyphen, starry. And I think sometimes they change up the spelling. So I just want to bring that up too. So, and the capitalization part of things, people would capitalize the word hammer in like what, the 1700s. So it's capitalization, just throw the letters up in the air. It's absolutely ridiculous from what I've seen so far. Capitalization is not a lot to go on. Even in the Latin Vulgate, whatever's capitalized, like Mike Ferrando said one time when me and Mike Holder and him were talking on a live stream, Latin capitalization back then was not the same as it is now. So just because you capitalize something doesn't make it a proper name. Who knows? Who knows? Let's see. So there's this. Let you guys read that for a second, then I'm going to move on to the next one. Look at the vid. Pope Francis declares that Lucifer is God of the Catholic Church. Yep, that sounds right. And I'll have to look for that. But then again, Pope Francis also being translated from Italian, and then everything else. A lot of the time, popes are quoted as saying something where they're like that is not what I said, and then they throw some garlic in your face or something. So I will have to look for that if I can. So let me actually add that to. Boop. Alrighty. And then if you look at a 1611 facsimile, you'll see they didn't capitalize it. All right, I'll look for that. And that would have to be in a the Gothic black letter typeface as well then. So I will look for that. And L's, I don't believe there's any kind of issue with black letter where a lowercase looks like a capital. So and of course, looking in the context, you can see if there's a capital L versus a lowercase L. Super duper easy. Some capital H's in black letter look like lowercase h's, like they have the one shaft, and then they have that kind of goes like that, which is like a lowercase, and that throws Cat Martin up against the wall. But whatever. So yeah, I think that's that. No more comments? No more questions? Alrighty then. I love it. You guys stuck around for a long stream. It was all 10 minutes shy of 2 hours. There's a lot going on. I wish I had all the eye candy and everything for you. Maybe that'll be good for next week because it's Valentine's. And the eye candy can be like your box of chocolates that I give to you on Valentine's because I love you guys. Why do you guys sit around here and listening to me just yakking along? Because you like this too. You like this subject too. I can tell because you're here. And if you didn't like the subject and you weren't all fired up about it too, you wouldn't be here. Be my Valentine, right? Anyways. So yeah. Next week, I hope to be able to explore the Valentines that John Gill sent to Gail Ripplinger and what he said. I'll give you a hint. It's already been posted on our community tab on our YouTube channel, and we posted it today, so you can go check it out if you want. Let's see. So, yep. And Avenue says, get some sleep. Yep, I got to go to work in the morning. And DeMartino says, thanks. You guys are the bomb. The absolute bomb. And I'm looking forward to watching my subscriber count just go bump. And this is the thing too. Since I started coming out with the, like Gail Ripplinger, like I was bewitched by Gail Ripplinger and stuff like this, I gotta change that title. And like to I was bewitched, not just bewitched by Gail Ripplinger, But anyways, since I came out with that, I've just been watching my subscribers count just go bump. I was at 190, or no, I was at 950, and then it went down to 149, 148, 145, and it's just boop, 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 and it's just like, okay, whatever. And finally, in the last 2 days, it had crept back up to 955. And I was like, yes. And then this evening before I started the stream, it was 958. And I was just like, yes. And then I'm just like, and then Brandon had to go publish the 11-minute video about the Lucifer thing. And just now it's time to start posting stuff about Lucifer and lose even more subscribers. So whatever. I am looking forward to, I'm looking forward to, I guess, replacing our subscribers, the people that subscribe to me just because I sang the King James only song. I am looking forward to replacing it with people that care about the subject matter, that take the subject seriously, take the material seriously, see their own responsibility to look at the information for themselves and do diligent research. I am looking forward to having those kind of people subscribe to this channel. And I hope that's who you want to be. Have a good night. We'll talk soon. And don't forget to read that Bible that you got, like the devil's after it. Yep, replace it with people that want to learn. I'll let you guys read that and then I'll read it. Watch it drop like the New Year's ball. Woo! Pop the popcorn and unleash the confetti. All right. So yeah, that's the good thing. The good thing is, hopefully there'll be other people, and it's. I'm already in like a sub niche, and now I'm just niching down even tighter. But I think that there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle on this whole question that really want to see the whole thing talked about and just everything get sorted out, the nuance and the details and everything like this dived into. And I'm going to try to do that to the best of my ability. And all I can hope is that I will inspire somebody else to do the same. Maybe somebody with greater capacity, greater research, capabilities. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. And it's 12 o'clock. Time for me to scoot and skedaddle. Read that Bible like the devil's after it, because there truly is a Bible version conspiracy. Have a good night. We'll talk soon. and I look forward to it. It's not going to let me just cover the lens all cool and everything. See ya.